Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's live learning event, the Grooper Tasks page. This is the sixth event now in our Moving to the Grooper web client series, which is designed to give you insights and information and tips and stuff on moving forward to newer versions of Grooper with clarity and confidence. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brad Blood, and I will be the moderator for today's event. If you've got any questions while Randall's talking today, you can always shoot them to us to the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Sometimes that's covered up by the little more icon that has the little circle and the dots in it. That's sometimes where you can find that Q&A box. And we will answer all of your questions as time allows. All right, today's speaker is Randall Kigert, our training and curriculum specialist with a background in 3D digital media and video production and a ton of Grooper knowledge. Randall combines a highly technical and demanding training curriculum with elegance and attention to detail. With a rare gift to communicating extremely technical nuances in a straightforward manner, he is a true Grooper expert and a valued Grooper resource. Randall, take it away.
Thanks, Brad. And I'm so glad to have everyone here that's participating. I always love showing off Grooper stuff, and especially when it comes to moving to the web client as a topic. As many people as I can get excited about leaving the thick clients as possible, the better. The web client is a much better experience, and it's got so many improvements on it. And today we're going to be looking at the tasks page, as Brad stated. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So I'm going to pull up Grooper here, and I'm on the main page. And from here, we've got our buttons where we can go to any of the pages. The same buttons are mirrored up here at the top. So I'm going to go to the tasks page by either clicking this button or this button here up at the top. And I'm just going to make a new window and go to that. And this is probably going to be a fairly short session. There's not a whole lot to the tasks page. Thankfully, it's pretty straightforward. You can see mine is quite blank at the moment because I don't really have anything going on in my environment. But let's just break down what we're looking at. Now, I'm surprised I haven't shown this before, but it's actually something quite useful if you're interested in some of the more nitty-gritty details of stuff. But at any time in a web browser, you might know you can press F12 and it'll pull up this sidebar where you can get a fuller understanding of everything that's going on. One of my favorite little buttons up here up at the top is in the top left, and it's this select element button. And I can come over in here and select elements. So I can find different parts of this that I want to look at, and I can get the names of stuff. So like this guy here, I can see is called the object list, and I can do that with anything else that I have going on. So I can select different parts of the elements of the web page, and I can see what they're called. I can look at styles of it and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Not necessary, but just kind of a little extra tidbit that might be useful if you're ever wanting to know something. I find it useful as an educator because sometimes I don't know specifically what some elements in the UI might be called in code, but I can always use that little hover over button, click on an area in the UI, even the buttons, and I can see what they're called, and that's pretty cool. But here in the tasks page, this is going to be equivalent to what, if you still use or have used the thick client, would be known as the Grooper dashboard, if I'm not mistaken. And this is an environment where we organize work based on the task that's being performed. So in a batch process, you've got batch process steps. Batch process steps are assigned activities, and activities execute jobs. Now, jobs have tasks associated with them. If it's what I would call an unattended activity or an unattended job, it would be something like recognize or extract. That's something a person doesn't do. That's something the computer does. It's still a job, and it has a number of tasks associated with it based on the scope and the folder level. So let's say I'm doing recognize, and I've got 50 batch pages in there. So my scope would be batch page. And when I submit a job, it would submit one job, but it would have 50 tasks because of those 50 pages. When it comes to human attended activities, the main thing is going to be review. So I'm going to be kind of coming at this from a reviewer's or an end user's perspective, because that's where this page is going to be the most useful. So unlike the batches page, I'll go over into that really quickly. This page is organized by batches. Now, as a designer, I could come in here and monitor the batches with these different tabs. I can start new batches and associate them with batch processes, and I can start a workflow going. As an end user, I would use the batches page if I'm doing work associated with a batch. Now, the tasks page is slightly different in that I'm going to be doing work associated with a task instead of a batch. So maybe let's say you've got your review users delineated into different groups. Like this guy always reviews classify activities. This guy always reviews data, or this guy or gal, whoever. And that's where this would come in. So if I were managing a batch, I would be doing all review tasks within that batch. I'm going to do the classify review. I'm going to do the separation review. I'm going to do the data review, thumbnail review if I'm doing image processing of some kind with a scanner. With the tasks page, however, I'm going to be looking at things associated with those tasks. So instead of looking at everything in a batch, I might only look at classify. I might only look at data review, etc. Now I can start batches and so we've got this object list here. I'll populate it with something in a minute just so we can see. And this is going to be where we see all the tasks. On the right, we've got this panel that we're going to have details about what we have selected. And again, I'll put something in here so we can see it. And again, it's really straightforward. At the top, these things are always the same. This little area here will change depending on the page. So again, like if I go to the batches page, we can see these buttons change, but all these stay the same. And even these up here stay the same. So choosing a repository, getting info about my user. So if I wanted to come in here and switch it to light mode versus dark mode, I could do that. And then of course I could click the question mark button to go to the help page. But these are the buttons that are going to change. Now I can filter stuff, and this is again pretty straightforward. I can come in here and select a queue, and I'll talk about queues in just a moment. I can filter stuff based on a batch process. I can filter it based on a specific step, or I could filter it based on a specific batch. And again, at any point, if I wanted to, I could right click in this property grid with these changes I may have saved or made, and I can save a preset. I could come in here and name the preset, and I could choose one if there was one existing here, and I could override it. And that way, whatever filter settings I'm using here, I could load them quickly if I use that filter a lot. The other thing here is being able to start a processing task, which again, I'll touch on in just a moment when I actually have something in here. And then I have a button here where I can create a new batch. Now, you may not frequently make new batches in the tasks page. You're probably going to do that through the batches page. You can do that through here. So I can come in here and I can, start a new batch. I can name it. I can pick a process and I can give it a priority, and I can go from there. Pretty straightforward. Most review users probably aren't going to be making batches. They're probably just going to be picking up batches that exist currently. A designer probably, won't make batches through here. They can. They probably do it through the batches page, or even on the design page. If I come in here to batches, I could come into production and go to the batches tab. And I might even just do it through the design page, where I can basically, this is exactly the view I would have on the batches page, but it's in the design page, so I can manage it through here. So 6 one way, half a dozen the other, if you want to do it through the design page or through the batches page. But as far as tasks go, we're going to manage stuff through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start a new batch so I can get some stuff in here and we can see some things going on the tasks page. So I'm just going to make a new batch here, and I'll leave that name. That's fine. I'll pick a process. This one's published from the last time we did a webinar. So invoices file import process. And actually, I'm going to do it through the imports page really quickly so I can associate it with batch. And it might, let's see, HTTP. No, I'm going to do a new one. I'll give it a description, new batch for tasks page, and I'll pick a provider. Do I want to do it through here? I'll just do it through the batches page. I'll make a new batch. I'll call it that. I'll pick a process, and I'll give it a priority of 3, which is fine. I'll select this batch. It is currently paused. So if I go into this batch, I'll go to the folder viewer, and I'm just going to pull up some content that I can put in here. So I'll go to here. No, I'm going to go to documents and find my mock documents. I'll find an invoice, and let's go with this guy is probably good. Let me give him a quick look. Yeah, this will work. So I'm just going to take this guy and I'm going to drag and drop him in here. And now we've got a batch with a batch folder in it. We've got an invoice, so we can actually start to do something with this. So I'll go back to the batches page. I've got this guy here. We're starting on review, it looks like. which is fine. It's enough to show what we're looking at. So if I were to maybe restart this, I'll pause it and I'll go to, let's see, target step. I'll start with split pages because I actually want to have this process, and we'll apply that. It's still on review. So I probably want to go to reset. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I want to do. Is it this? No, that one's already done. Anyway, I'll have it be on review, and I'll just go ahead and resume this. So it'll split pages, and yep, it's going to go through. And if we look at the tasks page, I think we can even, no, it's not going to show those up there. It's probably because they're already done. But we're going to go through these different things here, and we're going to see them working. It'll extract some data, and we'll get to the review step in just a moment. So now we're on review. If I go to the tasks page, we can see here now that there is a task that's on the step review. And, here's the one I just made. We can see some details about it here. Here's the workflow, or the name of the batch. We've got a process that it's using, the batch process that you saw me choose. It's on the step. We can see some details. And then we've got at the bottom, as per usual, whenever we have a property grid like this, we've got a area here where we can click on Grooper help stuff, and it'll go to the Grooper help page. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. That's what it is. So like if I were a person doing review, I would be sitting in here in the tasks page. I would see this task is now available, and I could work it. So I could select it and then click this button up here at the top to start processing the task, and it's going to go into that task. Now, there's not a whole lot left to it. I see tasks in the tasks page. Based on my filter, I'm going to see everything that's there. If there were a bunch of things here, I would see all of them. If I wanted to filter them, I could. And then really kind of the last thing I want to touch on is, what kind of work do I see here? The thing I want to touch on would be queues in this case. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on queues because I do think that could honestly be its own session. But what I would do is I would be a designer, and I would be on the design page, and I'd go to the Grooper root node, and I would go to the root tab, and I'd go to permission sets. So I would come in here to permission sets. I've got designers as a default. That's, people that I want to have be designers. And I've got 3 people in here currently, and they are people in the education team. So me, Rihanna, and Dylan. If I wanted to add a new designer, I would come in here and look for them. Now, if I wanted to, I could make a new group, and I would name it something like review users, or maybe I could even call it something more specific like classify review users or data review users. And I would say that this applies to specific people. So I'd click on this. Now, this is a list of Active Directory entries. So maybe let's say Brad Blood, I wanted him to do specific kinds of work. Let's see if it lists that. Probably just B Blood. I'm not sure how it's listed here. An individual person, not a group. Yeah, so here's Brad Blood. If I wanted to add him to this, I could. So I would double click him, and it would be over here, and I'd click OK. So that's review users is going to apply to Brad Blood. I could give him specific page access. So I don't want him to be a designer. I want him to be able to maybe say, look at batches and tasks. And I could go from there. Now, I could leave that there, but I won't because I'm not going to really need it. But once I have that group or the name of the permission set and I have users applied to it, I could leverage that in a queue. So I could come over here to the queues, and I could add a review queue, and I could call this something like classify review, and I could add that queue, and then the performers, I would again come in here and either use that queue I made, or I could come in here and add specific people. And then from there, I could adjust it such that, the types of things that are seen here by Brad are only specific types of activities. So, I mean, honestly, that's really all there is to the tasks page. It's associated in like the batches page in that it's a place I go specifically and almost entirely as a end user who's looking to do some kind of review work. Instead of it being prioritized or associated by the batch, it's going to be associated by the task at hand, which in this case is going to be a type of review. And it's just a different way of looking at how to get certain kinds of things done. So, like I said, this was probably going to be kind of a short one. The tasks page is pretty straightforward, but I want to leave time for anyone to ask any questions or even make any requests if they want to see something specific. But other than that, I'll see what Brad has to say.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Randall. And yeah, if you have any questions, please go ahead and shoot them over to us right now through the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. A little sneak peek to our next live learning event here in several weeks with Dylan. It's going to be on AI generated documents, where he's going to cover how Grooper can build a document for you instead of you having to piece it together by hand. And that's what he's going to be covering. He's going to be talking about AI generators, and then he's going to be talking about the XML transform AI helper tool. And the bottom line is basically it's less grunt work and more results. And you can come and see how AI can take some of the tedious stuff off of your plate with Grooper. So that's kind of a sneak peek of the next one that we're going to have here in several weeks. But yeah, great job, Randall. It looks like you've answered everybody's questions. I don't see anything right now. So yeah, everybody, thanks for joining us today. We hope this is showing you some cool ways that the new tasks page can make your job a little bit easier and faster. Remember, we'll be sending out a link to everybody to this recording tomorrow or on Friday, and we'll also add it on our Grooper YouTube channel, which is Grooper AI on YouTube. Please rewatch it and share it with anybody who might benefit, or if you have any questions or ideas for future, webinars or live learning events that you'd like to see, please just let Randall or Dylan or myself or anybody else in the Grooper team know, and we'll see if we can work that into the schedule. But yeah, thanks for joining us and have a great day.